He then tells Jesus, this is the Father still going on, I went to the people that you told me to go to, but they couldn't help me. So in verse 18, he says, so he brings the boy to Jesus. And remember, Jesus rebuked the demon, and he came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. But before he heals the boy, he says, you unbelieving and perverse generation, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Now, when I read this, it sounded like Jesus got a little hot, got a little upset with the disciples there. And I believe the reason that Jesus is upset is because of their unbelief. Their unbelief. You see, unbelief leads to perversion, is what it says. Wow, perversion? That's what he says. Unbelief will pervert your thinking. Now, that word perversion means the alteration of something from its original course, or corruption of what was first intended. So we start off believing, but something causes us not to believe. And we stay in a place. We don't cross this faith bridge. Is anybody here this morning not crossing over the bridge of faith? So he's saying it perverts the way you operate, and it even perverts the way you even think of me. So Jesus says, bring the boy to me. And when he brings the boy to Jesus, Jesus speaks to the demon, and the boy is cured at once. Now remember, this boy has mental issues and physical issues, but behind all of this is a demon. It's a spirit. It's a demon. Nobody wants to talk about evil spirits and demons and stuff, but that's the thing that you got to see. See, now this was very interesting to me, because if you don't see the demon, then you will only be dealing with mental problems and physical problems and just regular old circumstances. But Jesus went to the source, because the source of the problem was spiritual, y'all. It was spiritual. You see, all these people that the boy had, he had spiritual problems. But if we don't address them spiritually, then we will never solve the problems. You see, we can't deal with a spiritual problem on a physical level. You just can't do it. It has to be dealt with spiritually. We have to pray. We have to fast. Now, we must understand that every problem, y'all, is not spiritual. In other words, if you just have a simple headache, this is a physical problem. But we need to understand that if there is a deeper problem than that we are dealing with, then we need to go deeper. We personally have to go deeper. For example, let me clear this up. If there is abuse in a marriage, where there is a history of physical and mental abuse, and even sexual abuse, we have to address these problems spiritually. Amen? Because this kind of problem is probably generational. Granddaddy and daddy, everybody was physically abusive. And they keep passing this on down. We have to deal with these kind of problems in a spiritual level. So we need to address the demons spiritual in a supernatural way. So what we need to do is to get our faith life right. Amen. So we will be able to deal with supernatural issues. Not everything is just something that we can deal with on a physical level. So often we deal with all of our problems and circumstances on the surface. We just deal with the surface of the problem. But when we decide to cross over our bridge of faith, God comes out of nowhere and takes away whatever was owning us and keeping us in a place of unbelief. See, there are people who never thought that they could ever be delivered from addiction. There are some people that thought that they never could be delivered from some kind of abuse, but they did. Because they understood that there is a bridge that leads to faith. And once we cross over, there's nothing impossible for us. So now after all of this, we look at verse 19, and it says, then the disciples came to Jesus privately. And they asked, why couldn't we drive this demon out? Because it's not like we didn't try, Jesus. We tried. It just didn't work. There are so many people that say the same thing as it relates to their own situations. We all say, hey, I'm trying, right? I'm trying. I'm sure that there are some people that when they have their private conversations with Jesus, they say, you know what, Jesus, I'm trying. I'm trying, it just doesn't work. It's not working. I'm trying to get over this hurt. It's just not working. I'm trying to get over this loss. I'm trying to get over this situation. I'm trying to read my Bible. It's not working, Jesus. I'm trying to pray, but it's just not working. That's what the disciples are saying, basically. They're saying, it doesn't work. I'm not getting victory. I'm not being delivered. I'm not, but I'm trying. So the disciples want to know why. And Jesus tells them in verse 20. He says, because you have so little faith. That's why you failed. It's real easy. The reason why you failed and the reason why we fail is our unbelief. It's because of our lack of faith. You see, it's because it's little. We don't decide to cross the bridge of faith and deal with our situations and problems spiritually. We don't do that. We don't deal with our problems in the supernatural because the faith is too small. I can't cross the bridge of faith, Jesus. I don't want to do that. That's too spiritual. I don't want to be that spiritual. I'm okay, you know. You see, we have enough faith to go to church, and we have enough faith to read our Bibles, and we even have enough faith to pray sometimes. But Jesus was saying that wasn't enough. But he wants to teach all of us how to grow our faith, and he tells us how to do in verse 20. He just says, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will be moved. Nothing will be impossible for you. So he says, you have to have the faith of a mustard seed. See, the thing that we got to remember that inside of this mustard seed, when planted, is a 15-foot mustard tree. You see, the seed is tiny, but the life inside of it, hallelujah, is big. Same with an acorn. An acorn is a mighty oak waiting to happen, y'all. So what made the disciples fail was the life inside of their faith. Amen. You see, it was a life issue. It wasn't a size issue. Huh? So the issue was living faith versus lifeless faith is what it was. So the thing that makes our faith small is the absence of the life inside of it. So how do we grow our faith? How do we grow our faith then? Number one, we got to put life into our faith. Got to put some life in it. Got to put some mustard in it. Y'all heard somebody say, put some mustard in it. Or either own it if it's a hot dog. But anyway, we have to start putting some mustard. Got to put some life in it. Also, number two, we have to start putting our belief before our sight. See, if you keep on waiting for it to happen, I got to see it, Jesus. I got to see it. It didn't work. I tried what you told me to do, and I couldn't heal this child. See, we have to start putting our belief before our sight. Number three, we have to stop not believing. See, that's what we do. We don't believe. Even in Mark 9 and 22, it tells a different version of this story that Matthew tells. The Father asked Jesus, if you can do anything, take pity on us. This is the way he said it. If you can do anything. If you can do anything, Jesus, take pity on us. And Jesus says, if you can. Everything is possible for one who believes. And it says immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. I do believe. And we're saying it this morning. Well, I do believe. Jesus, help my unbelief. Help my unbelief this morning. Because I've got some doubt. This looks like a big problem. This looks like a big job. We need Superman off in here, don't we? So we've got to ask Jesus for help. Help grow my faith, Jesus. Help my unbelief. Number four, you got to speak to your problem. Remember, Jesus spoke to the demon. Demon, get out of here. You got to get out of here. Spoke to the problem. Spoke to it. But the key here is we have to be inside the will of God. And God's will has to be in us. And our faith will grow, my brothers and sisters. You see, when we live by faith, it will bring heaven to us. That's the faith bridge that I'm speaking of. When we live by faith, it's like having heaven here on earth. And then number 5, always remember, even if your faith is weak, you have a faith helper. And his name is Jesus. You know, I heard someone say as I prepare to close here that without him you cannot, but without you, he will not. Without him, you cannot. Without God, without Jesus, you cannot. But without you participating, you got to participate with him. You got to cross over that faith bridge and believe, simply believe. Mustard seed faith, big life inside of it. So let us start putting our belief before our sight. Amen? Amen. Come on, give God some praise in this house. Amen. Let us pray. Gracious and loving Father, thank you for your word. Lord, and this morning we're just asking that you help our unbelief. There's so many of us, Lord, we say that we're trying, Lord. I'm trying. Oh, I'm trying, Lord. But it just doesn't seem to be working. Jesus is simply saying it's because of our faith. Our faith is too small. He said we have to have mustard seed faith, y'all. Because there's big life inside of a mustard seed. Stop not believing. Simply believe in all things are possible with God. But we have to believe, we have to cross over this faith bridge, Lord. Help our unbelief. Help us with all of our doubts when the difficult situations come. I'm not talking about just your regular physical headaches, Lord. I'm talking about the difficult situations when they come, Lord. This is when we need supernatural things to happen, Lord. We need favor. Brother Vance had favor. He had supernatural things happen just at an intersection, Lord.